gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Draw Step. I want to apologize first and foremost. I know it's been a little while since we posted last. We were switching up our setup, adding some new cameras, hoping to bring you guys better quality content on a more consistent basis. So now that we have all of that squared away, we're going to be bringing you the same old toxic deck builds that you know and love. Speaking of which, today, I'll admit it, I got a brand new deck, and it's got Eldrazi in it again. I am like a fiend. I am a fiend. As soon as I see a way to get cost reduction, any way of like cheating creatures in, I'm like, you know what this calls for? Eldrazi. So, let's get into it. Who are we working with? Today's commander, we have Rakdos, Lord of Riots. Now, he only costs 4 mana, black, red, for a 6/6 with flying and trample, which is an absurd stat line. The way to make it fair and balanced is, in order to cast it, you have to have done damage to one of your opponents on this turn. But again, 6/6 flying and trample, and once you do get it on the battlefield, your creature spells cost less based upon the amount of damage that you have done to your opponents on your turn. So, and actually, it's have lost this turn. So technically, if you had a way to cast creatures on an opponent's turn, you would be able to cast them for less as well too. We don't really play into that. We don't have any like flash or anything crazy like that. So we're mainly just focusing on casting on our turn. That being said, that may not seem that strong, but we have so many ways to cause our opponents to lose life and get some absurd cost reduction on our turn. So let's get into that. First and foremost, we will work through our ramp package. We want this deck to be as speedy as possible. So, of course, we got a Wayfarer's Bauble. We have a Commander Sphere, all classic cards, just trying to either get mana or get lands on the battlefield. Mind Stone, again, nice mana rock there. Arcane Signet, again, tap, get one of your colors. And last, for our ramp package, we have a Soul Ring, because I believe every deck should have a Soul Ring. It's kind of a busted card as far as fast mana, especially if you have it in a turn 1 play. That is tremendous right there. Now, we want to be able to interact with our opponent's stuff as well as ramping and getting our stuff going. So we have Seed Smash. This is an uncounterable spell, so you can either destroy one of your opponent's artifacts or you can buff a creature. It's nice having that flexibility for only 2 mana. Snuff Out. This is nice for in black, being able to potentially cast this for free, but destroy a non-black creature. And obviously, since we're running red-black, you're going to have swamps. You'll be able to cast that for free. This is a really fun card that I don't think gets played enough. For being in red, it's going to kind of come out of nowhere. You can destroy an artifact, but the best one on it is where it says change the target of target spell or ability with a single target. So if one of your opponents is going to destroy one of your creatures, you can play that and then end up destroying their creature instead. So it's almost a red counterspell, not exactly a counterspell, but it's still going to throw them off. They're not going to expect it, especially since you're playing red-black. Next, we have a Vandal Blast, which is a classic as far as red destruction goes. Be able to take out potentially a ton of your opponent's artifacts. Final Vengeance, only 1 mana, and then if you have like some tokens or a creature that you don't care as much about, you can get rid of that and then exile target creature your opponent controls. Saw in Half. This one is nice. I personally, you can use it to destroy an opponent's creature, But truly, where it shines the best is if you have a massive creature or a creature with a really good ETB or an effect that you want multiple of, using Saw in Half on yourself can be more powerful than using it to destroy an opponent's creature. Come Back Wrong is another great one that I don't, destruction spell that I don't think it's played enough or talked about enough. Think about it from the standpoint that like an OG, like Murder, costs 3 mana to play, right? But this says destroy target creature. If a creature card gets destroyed, you get to bring it to the battlefield and have it on return it to the battlefield under your control, sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. So this is not just destroying an opponent's threat, but it is giving you that card, giving you that value for a little bit as well too, which for, again, the same cost as a Murder, that is pretty nice. The last card I have is a Swiftfoot Boots, which is less about throwing off your opponent's plans, but giving you protection, especially protecting your commander. Once your commander is out, once people realize the tax theft that you're committing with that, they're going to want to try to destroy it. You're going to want to have ways of protecting it. We have a few other ways of protecting it, like a Fake Your Own Death. You can play that if somebody goes to destroy your commander, and that will just bring it right back to the battlefield. Macabre Waltz, I believe, is how you pronounce that. But that is another way to bring creatures back. If you have some really strong creatures that your opponents destroy, you want to have ways of bringing them back and being able to use them again. You're in black. That's classic black, touching your graveyard. Live or Die. This, for 5 mana, you can choose. You can technically destroy target creature. You're not going to want to spend 5 mana to destroy target creature. You're going to want to return a card from the graveyard to the battlefield, but you do have the flexibility if in a pinch you need to destroy a creature. And then the last card for this segment is Overpowering Attack. Your commander, again, think about it from the standpoint, it's a 6/6 with flying and trample. That's a pretty big stat line in and of itself. It should be able to connect and do damage. So now you can do it twice, getting that extra combat for only 3 mana if you hit with your commander. That is really good value. Normally, you would have to pay that 5 mana for like a... There's a couple different spells that allow you to take multiple combats. They normally cost 5. The 3 with the free running, that is a great deal right there. Now, that's kind of how we're getting up and running, getting things going, but we want to keep our hands stacked. We want to make sure that we have cards to run through here. So we have things like Cathartic Reunion. You have to discard cards, draw, 3 cards. You get 3 cards off of that. And then grab the prize for, again, 2 mana. You got to discard a card, and then you get to draw 2 cards. What's nice with this one is it deals 2 damage to each opponent, so that plays into our commander's ability as far as doing the damage to your opponents and getting that discount effect that you'll get from having done damage to them too. A great card to discard, because obviously you're going to have to get rid of stuff to use those draw spells. Something like Anger, which if that is in your graveyard gives all of your creatures haste. Having haste, they're really, if you were to make tweaks to this deck, maybe putting in a few more haste enablers would be nice. With some of the massive creatures that we're going to be bringing out, being able to swing with them as soon as possible, that is very nice. You want Anger in your graveyard as quickly as possible. So, that's the fundamentals of the deck. Now we're kind of getting into the meat and potatoes. We want to be able to do damage to our opponents to be able to get that cost reduction. We have a few different ways to do it. You have like a Lava Spike, 1 mana, do some damage to your opponents. Bolt Wave. This is probably one of the strongest ones. Bolt Wave, 1 mana, deals 3 damage to each opponent. This is even stronger than a Lightning Bolt. If you have 2-3 opponents out, that could be up to 9 damage off of 1 mana spent. So now all of your creatures cost 9 colorless mana less to cast. You can cast pretty much anything in this deck for almost free with that 9 off. Here's another really strong one. You can choose the same mode multiple times, but that is going to be able to, for 4 mana, again, ping your opponents for a lot of damage, get a lot of discounting for you. Pain for All, this is a newer one. When it enters, it deals damage to your opponents, and then anytime it is dealt damage, it deals damage to each opponent. So again, you could ping if you put this on your commander, you could ping your commander and then do that damage to all of your opponents. Lightning Bolt, classic, 1 mana, deals 3 damage to anything. Flexibility there. And then Flame Rift. For 2 mana, kind of similar to Bolt Wave that we were talking about. It also is doing damage to all of your opponents. 4 damage this time. It does hit you as well too, but 4 damage to you, you don't really care about that because you're doing 12 damage. You're getting all of your spells for free because of that. So those are kind of our instant and sorcery ways of doing it. We do have some repeatable ways of doing it as well too, all of which are fairly similar, like a Lightning Bolt Crew, 3 mana, tap it, deals 1 damage to each opponent. Lobber Crew, again, 3 mana, tap it, deals 1 damage to each opponent. What's nice with them being only 2 and 3 mana, like the Thermo Alchemist, which is 2 mana for a similar effect, deals 1 damage to each opponent. What's nice with them being 2 and 3 mana is that if you have one of them in your starting hand, you can get them out before your commander, so that way by the time that you have that 4 mana, you can tap it, you can do the damage, and then you'll be able to pull out your commander way ahead of when your opponents would be expecting a 6/6 to come out. Another one, Unruly Catapult, tap it, deals 1 damage to all of your opponents. Gutter Snipe, since we have a lot of instants and sorceries in this deck, this is going to be constantly getting you value, doing 2 damage to all of your opponents there. Creeping Bloodsucker, again, another really inexpensive one that you can get out early to be able to pull your commander out, and then just for being on the board every turn, all of your spells are going, well, all of your creature spells are going to cast 3 less to cast because it deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain life out of that deal. Firebrand Archer, kind of similar to a Gutter Snipe, not quite as good, but deals 1 damage to each opponent whenever you cast a non-creature spell. Plague Spitter, at the start of your turn, deals 1 damage to you and to all the creatures as well too, but most of your creatures are so big that taking 1 damage, that doesn't really affect them. Quamo Faces Kalazan, deals a bunch of different things, but it deals 1 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control, and then it can come back transformed as well. Molten Gatekeeper, anytime a creature enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to each opponent. This is a fairly creature-heavy deck. We're going to be bringing in a bunch of creatures, so all of your creatures that you're bringing in for less than they should cost, that you're cheating into play, they are now doing damage and making the following creatures even cheaper to play as well too. This enchantment is a favorite of mine. I feel like it does not get played enough, and in really aggro decks like this one, I think Descent into Avernus is terrific value that you get off of it. At the beginning of the turn, you put a Descent counter on it, then it deals damage to everyone, you included, and then everyone gets treasure tokens based on the descent counters. So you are helping out your opponents depending on what your opponents are doing, giving them that mana. It can be a bit of a trade-off, but again, it's doing all that damage to them, so it's making your spells less expensive. You can cast stuff for cheaper, and you're getting the mana to cast those spells as well. I think that this is a very efficient way to speed games up. Another card that I love putting in decks where you have any sort of cost evasion, the Ancient Cellar Spawn. Whenever you cast a spell, if you're able to cast it for less than what it costs, you you do damage equal to that to your opponents. It also discounts your demon spells, which our commander is a demon, and we have several other demons in the deck. Some of the spells that we cast, we have some 9, 10, 11, 12 mana spells that we'll be able to cheat out for free, and then that's doing huge amounts of damage to our opponents, so that can be a way to take them out as well too. Without even doing any combat damage, just bringing out the creatures is now killing our opponents. And then the last one that I have as far as repeatable damage is the Heartless Hijitsu, however you pronounce that. This is another card that I have in a couple different decks because of how stupid strong it is. One swing of it and everybody loses half of their life. That does include you as well too. However, this can technically combo with if you have something like Fiery Emancipation. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to permanent or player. Now, you do have to be careful with that because that could technically kill you as well too, because it's everybody, it's not just you. But from there, we do have some tutors in our deck to be able to find all of those pieces that we are looking for, especially our biggest ones. When building this deck, I wanted it to be strong, to be powerful. Putting tutors in it does technically raise the competitive level of it, but I did not just go for your demonic tutors or whatever. I didn't necessarily put in the strongest ones. I don't want the gameplay to be the same every single time. So I have a few different ones like Wishclaw Talisman. It allows you to tutor, but then once you do, you have to pass it on to an opponent. So this brings in some strategy as far as politicking with your opponents and making sure that whoever you give it to will either not tutor for something super scary or promises to give it back so you get that third and final wish. Or conversely, you could use it, you could tutor with it, and then with all of your artifact removals, as soon as you pass it on to an opponent, you can then just destroy it, and then nobody gets anything more from it. Illicit Shipment, very expensive at 5 mana, but you are going to pretty much always use that casualty cost. You're going to sacrifice a creature and then be able to tutor for 2 cards. 5 mana to tutor for 2 cards, not that bad of a deal. That's actually pretty solid value right there. Ristic Tutor, this one you're going to want to use early on, especially if you see your opponents are all tapped out on mana, because otherwise they can just pay 2 and counter it. But if you're in a scenario where you see, hey, all my opponent's mana is tapped out, going to play this, going to go tutor for some big creature, like an Eldrazi. And then the last one, we have Blood Speaker, which you can sacrifice, and then it allows you to go tutor for a demon, which we do have quite a few demons in this deck. One of the best being Bloodletter of Alcatraz. This is one where really this is the combo that you want to have in place with the what's it called? The Heartless whatever. Again, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know how to pronounce it, but if you have this bad boy in play, you tap it, and you also have the Bloodletter in play. If an opponent would lose life during your turn, they lose twice that much life instead. If they have an even amount of life, so say they're at 40, they're supposed to lose 20 with that. With the Bloodletter, they're losing all 40 life. Game over. That is very strong. But just having that in play in general, you hit somebody with a lightning bolt, they're now losing 6 damage, or they're now losing 6 life, and your spells are 6 less to cast, your creature spells. We have a few other demons that work really well with this. When you cast this one, it bonds 2 opponents together, so if you deal damage to one, it deals damage to the other one. And that can be, again, as far as politicking goes, that can be fun as well too, because it's going to incentivize you're playing with 3 other people. You go to the person that you're not bonding. You're like, hey, hit that person. You're hitting both of them. It's double the value right there. You're not making friends, that's for sure, but hopefully you can make your opponents bigger enemies. Arbiter of Woe. When it enters, you do have to sacrifice a creature, but it's also causing your opponents to lose some life, so getting you more of a discount there. Orca Siege Demon. Whenever another creature enters, you get put +1/+1 counters on it, so is going to become really big and scary, and then when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power divided as you choose among any number of targets. So again, you can split it up over your opponents, you can use it as like a board wipe, you can straight up kill an opponent probably with how big that thing is going to get. And again, with the amount of ways of dealing damage to our opponents, you could play this potentially for only a black and a red, getting a 5/5 with trample. That's pretty crazy. Archfiend of Despair, your opponents are not going to be able to gain life, and then similar to like the Bloodletter of Alcatraz, it's basically doubling the damage that has been done to your opponents. Indulgent Tormentor. At the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card unless target opponent sacrifices a creature or pays 3 life. So that could be bringing some discount to you, but your opponents are probably going to realize that and just let you draw cards, so you're getting that extra card advantage, which can be very important here. Balrog Durin's Bane. Again, I apologize. I am not great at pronouncing cards. I'm just great at putting toxic cards into a deck. But this is a 7/5 with haste that, again, you could cast for as low as just a black and a red mana. And it can't be blocked except by legendary creatures, so depending on what your opponents are playing with, this could be a giant 7/5 just swinging through, constantly connecting. And then finally, as far as our giant demons go, probably the biggest, baddest demon we have in this deck, Valgavoth, Terror Eater. I've always wanted to build a Valgavoth deck. As soon as the Duskmourn set came out and I saw this card, I was considering building a deck around it. The problem with having it as a commander is that it is very expensive to get out, and when your opponents see it in the command zone, they are going to be like, okay, he is a threat. We have to take him out before he can play this card. Because it says if a card you didn't control be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. During your turn, you may play cards exiled with Valgavoth and cast spells this way. Pay life instead, and you have a 9/9 flying lifelink demon, which is ridiculous. So having it as a commander can be tricky to pull off, but having it in the 99 of this deck, again, you could play it for as low as 3 black mana and have a giant 9/9 flying lifelink creature. Crazy, crazy value there. Giggling Skitterspike, hopefully you can read that, and then also Stuffy Doll. 2 similar effects where they're indestructible creatures, and any damage dealt to them you can then ping off onto an opponent. So that can be kind of fun to do more damage, get more value there. Another card that, since it's completely colorless, you could potentially play for free, Scavenged Brawler, has a bunch of keywords: Flying, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink. If it gets taken out, or you could just discard it with one of our discard to draw cards, you can exile it from your graveyard, choose target creature you can put on your commander or one of our other Eldrazi that we're going to be getting to in a second here, and you get to put 4 +1/+1 counters on it, a flying counter, vigilance counter, a trample counter, and a lifelink counter on it. Imagine a Eldrazi that already has like Annihilator or whatever, it's like a 10/10, and now it's a 14/14 with flying, trample, lifelink. Yeah, that's going to be GG's for your opponents right there. Raphael, Fiendish Survivor, other demons, blah blah blah, get +1/+1, have lifelink. Again, we have quite a few demons, including our commander, giving them the lifelink and that little extra buff. That is nice value right there, and it creates some creatures that can ping your opponents. Screaming Nemesis. Now, Screaming Nemesis is only 3 mana, so you could play this early on. But once Screaming Nemesis is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any other target. So you're going to choose one of your opponents, and then once they're dealt damage, they can't gain life for the rest of the game. that's pretty solid. That is pretty solid, ensuring that like if you're playing against somebody who has a life gain deck, hitting them with that early on to prevent them from being able to regain all the life that you're going to be doing to them. Now, finally, we're getting into my absolute favorite, my Eldrazi that I put into this deck that I was pretty much playing this deck all around when I built it. First, Conduit of Ruin, which is really just when you cast it, you get a tutor for another Eldrazi, get something even bigger. Speaking of bigger, we have Ulamog's Crusher. It's an 8/8 with Annihilator 2. Has to attack all the time, but we were planning on attacking all of the time anyway. Artisan of Kozilek, another 10/9, another massive creature, allows you to get something back from the graveyard to the battlefield when it enters, and it has Annihilator 2, so it's going to be mowing down all of your opponent's stuff. Again, keep in mind, just playing one like Flame Rift at the start of your turn that pings all of your opponents. You got cost reduction at 12, you just played Artisan to Kozilek for free. It That Betrays, 12 mana for an 11/11 with Annihilator 2. And when you're now hitting your opponents with these Eldrazi creatures and they're sacrificing stuff, they everything they're sacrificing, they're going to have to give to you. You are going to create some very, very salty people at your playgroup because they are going to be pissed about having to get rid of their stuff and just fork it over to you. Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, another absurdly large creature that you could potentially just play for free. It says when you cast a spell, draw 4 cards. Nice, refill your hand. Annihilator 4 on a 12/12. What are they going to do? You're going to just mow through everything your opponents have. Ulamog, the Infinite Gyre, probably one of the biggest, scariest creatures out there, and an absurd threat once it hits the battlefield. Because when you cast it, you get to destroy target permanent, destroy whatever your opponents have that kind of concern you. Then you got a 10/10, an indestructible 10/10. Your opponents are going to have to try to find a way to exile. That's about all they have to work with there. Indestructible 10/10 with Annihilator 4. And last but not least, probably the grossest, most toxic card in the deck. You should have already guessed. Blightsteel Colossus, not an Eldrazi, but a stupid card. 11/11, trample, infect, indestructible. That thing is mowing down your opponents and taking them out with infect damage. So this deck is going to pop off quickly with all of the ramp we have. And as far as like our mana base goes, I will have the non-basic lands. I'll have a full card description or card list in the description below, so you can check that out. But this deck is very fast-paced. You're going to be able to cheat out massive creatures very quickly and start swinging them on your opponents. They won't know what hit them. That turn 3, turn 4, you could have Eldrazi on the board already, and everybody else is just going to be left with their head spinning. Let me know in the comments below if there's any changes you would make. Again, you could put in some better tutors. You could put in some more haste enablers. I would say those could be some nice tweaks, but even as it is, playing against my friends, this is a very, very strong, fast aggro deck. If you like toxic decks like these, make sure you check out there's going to be a video appearing on screen after this. We have more toxic deck builds. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends. Share it with your friends who love building toxic decks or who you know are going to get pissed off when you build this deck and play it against them. That being said, love y'all. We'll see you guys next week.